Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Elevated Beauty Podcast. I'm your host, Emily Fouts. Today's episode is going to be all about Brazilian waxing. This is a revised episode. I recorded this whenever I was known as the Skin and Soul Podcast before I formed my business. So yeah, I'm just going to be walking through all the steps of how I perform a Brazilian waxing service, why and how I specialize in this service, and some things to consider if you are offering this to potential guests. So I've been doing Brazilian waxing now for about 8 years, and I obviously didn't always specialize in Brazilian waxing. I definitely had a starting point and had to perfect my skill. I was actually initially trained in Brazilian waxing with strip wax. And no shade to you if you do Brazilian waxing with strip wax, or if you do some strip, some hard wax, however you do it. Strip wax, hard wax, sugaring. I don't have any experience with sugaring. Now I exclusively use hard wax for all of my waxing services that I offer. So the difference between those two is that hard wax, you don't need a pellin strip or a muslin strip to remove the wax. It dries upon itself and then you just remove it, whereas a strip wax, you have to lay that strip on top of it, also known as soft wax. So it is a little bit more aggressive. Maybe some people will beg to differ with that, but it does bind more to the skin than hard wax does. Hard wax really just wraps around that hair follicle and removes it that way. In my experience, the hard wax that I use is a lot gentler on the skin. So a lot of it has to do with the temperature that you're applying to. You want to make sure that you perfect the temperature of your wax no matter what wax you're using, because the temperature alone can cause a lot of damage to the skin. So anyways, when I was, strip wax is great for brows. I'll say that one thing. But for strip wax, I don't like it for anything else. But yeah, when I was trained in strip wax, I was actually pretty proficient in doing it. As far as like my time and everything. But yeah, in the end, it was just like more painful, more aggressive. And looking back now, I am like mortified. I couldn't imagine doing strip wax for a full Brazilian for a little while. When I was getting the hang of hard wax and exploring it a bit more, I would do strip wax on the pubic mound and then do hard wax on the labia area, which worked great. But in my own business, I don't have a need to have two different waxes on hand because the wax that I use works wonderfully for every service that I provide. So going about Brazilian waxing, obviously, first of all, you want to make your client feel really comfortable. There's a lot of anxiety coming into this appointment. Bearing yourself, it's an intimate area. They will probably feel vulnerable, so you want to make them feel as comfortable as you can. Of course, we want to start out any service with an intake form. That way you have the correct knowledge on if they are a candidate for waxing. And if you need to take any special precautions, I have some clients that have hip injuries, so maybe they can only butterfly one leg at a time. Or if you're pregnant, they may want to sit up a bit, have that little bit of elevation in their back. So insurance purposes, obviously. So have them fill out an intake form. Personally, I like to give people privacy. I know at European Wax Center, they're known to be all about speed waxing, and they will have the client get undressed in the room with them. And so there's a couple reasons I don't do that. I want to give people the privacy to do what they need to do and help to bring their anxiety levels down if that exists at all. And I want them to be able to have privacy to sanitize themselves. So that's a big reason that I've never had any weirdness with like dingleberries or streaks or any unsavory things that might be located in that area is because I offer a sanitary wipe. And I personally think it would be awkward for both of us if you're wiping yourself while I'm in the room. So I know some estheticians turn their back while they're doing it, but I personally would feel awkward if I was getting a Brazilian wax somewhere and the esthetician was in there as I was taking my underwear off and all of that stuff and sanitizing myself. So I step out of the room. It literally only takes a couple minutes. I have a hand towel that I fold up on the bed, and then I have a sanitary wipe on top of that. I let them know they can use it if they would like. I've never had anyone deny the sanitary wipe, so it makes them feel better and it makes me feel better. And so the hand towel is, I refer to it as a modesty cloth. And as I open the door, obviously you don't want your client to be bare naked in front of anyone that might be passing the door if that were to happen. And then also it kind of makes them feel better that you're not just walking in straight like with their badge, like in your face. But, so that's in terms of setup. I also have a marine vinyl wax mat that I made. You can go to Hobby Lobby or Joann Fabrics and get your own marine wax vinyl. And then I sewed a quilt binding on the edge. So you can buy those from people, but I wanted to make mine myself because it was a little cheaper and I could customize it to the colors that I wanted. And whenever I'm done with the service, I just use a few Cavicide wipes or Cavicide spray and then sanitize it in between guests that way. It's a lot more efficient than wax paper. You know, you can see the sweat through it. It tears. It's quite frankly disgusting. So I love my wax mat. Okay, so now we have the setup. We have the wax mat, the modesty cloth, the sanitary wipe. They fill out their intake form. That's where I knock on the door, let them know, ask them if they're ready. I come in and the small talk starts. Throughout my Brazilian waxing service, that is where I am the most talkative because I do not want my client to, feel anxious. It's a good distraction for people. So I go in, asking them about their self and, we just get to it. So I have them butterfly their legs, which is meeting their feet together in the middle and, kind of opening your legs up a bit that way. And then I will check my wax, make sure that the temperature is perfect. Everybody's wax is going to be a little bit different. And also depending on your wax pot. So just find that sweet spot and then make sure that your wax is a good temperature that you believe it to be. And so then I remove the modesty cloth and I do a test application. I have been burned before. A hot wax is like one of the worst things because you can't remove it. You have to wait until it dries. You have to wait until it's removed. So I do a small area and I ask them if the temperature's okay. If they say it's fine, I continue and I let them know that at any point, if the wax is too hot, just let me know. So that's something that also makes my client feel really comfortable to know that that communication is open and they can feel comfortable with letting me know if the wax is too hot for them. So if it's someone's first wax, there's a little bit of education that we can go over to kind of fill in that small talk and, make sure there's not any dead silence. So if it's someone's first wax, I'll let them know kind of like how the hair removal works, what they can expect for new growth, what aftercare is like. Ask them what they use at home, even though it's probably on their, intake form. And so, again, if it's their first wax, their hair is probably going to be quite dense and deeply rooted. So it is going to hurt a little bit more and it's normal to have pinpoint bleeding. So I educate my client on all that. And so we just start at the pubic mound area. I usually go straight across both ways and remove the hair. And in that little area in the pubic mound where it starts to go down into the labia, that is where the hair is most dense and the hair is going in different directions when it meets that area. So you might have to go in both directions. So I start with the pubic mound and then I go on the inner thighs and then I start from the top of the labia and go all the way down. And then I do the inner labia. You want to make sure that you're pulling the skin. That way you can open up the inner labia and get in there. And don't be afraid to ask your client for help. If there is someone who is more quote unquote heavy set, it is normal to need their assistance. They might need to hold their thigh or they might need to hold their stomach up to stretch that skin. That way it's more comfortable for them. And also you can access all of the hair. So do the pubic mound in different directions to make sure that we have that hair. And obviously, if you were trained in waxing, you know that you apply the wax in the direction of the hair and then pull against it. And if there are some tough hairs, if you need to go the opposite direction of the hair and then remove with the hair, you can. That's just, for hairs that might be have a little bit of skin cell build up on top of them. But typically you would go in the direction and then remove against. So anyways, we did the pubic mound, the thigh, outer labia, inner labia, and then I do 2 butt strips coming up when they're still in that same position. And then that's when I have them, after all that, lay on their side facing away from me. And then I have them bring their top leg up towards their chest, and I have them hold their butt cheek up with their hands, and that opens the area up. I found that this is the most comfortable position for everyone, pregnant people, non-pregnant. So I've only had a couple clients that prefer knees to chest. And surprisingly enough, the position where I have them lay on their side away from me and bring their knee up to their chest and hold their cheek is a lot of people don't do that. And that surprises me because there's nothing wrong with knees to chest, but I feel more vulnerable that way. And the one where you're on your hands and knees, that's so outdated. And please, I hope you're not doing that. If you are, please stop. I've had so many people tell me that they just feel dehumanized with that. So let's just not do that one anymore. And so once the front part is done, that's the bulk of it. I let them know the hard part's over. The butt strip does not even hurt, and everyone agrees. It definitely does not. A lot of the times women that have hemorrhoids, they're self-conscious of it, and I let them know, everybody has hemorrhoids. You want to make your client feel comfortable again. So after you're done with that, I cover them up with the Modesty cloth, let them know we're all done, and then I offer a 4x4 aesthetic wipe with whatever aftercare you choose. It can have some type of treatment oil on it, soothing gel, etc. And then I step out of the room and I let them know to just crack the door open whenever they're ready. And that is how I perform my Brazilian waxes. If it is their first wax, I actually have a JPG download of my waxing aftercare that I will send them via text message. And if you take my Aesthetic Success course, you will have access to my templates for all aftercare downloads that you can send to your clients however you choose. So that's really helpful because people do like to refer back to things, and it is hard to remember these types of things. Obviously, it's second nature to us, but for clients, it can be a little hard to remember unless they have something they can look at. So that is how I perform the Brazilian wax service. And if you offer Brazilian waxing and kind of want to up your game, I hope that this was informative for you. And maybe you can implement some stuff that you haven't been already and kind of just elevate your guest experience. But yeah, as always, I will see you guys next Monday, 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time for another episode.